Check our stacks, our collection supreme. Limited editions, every collector's dream. We're the myths, we're the legends, with every drop. Taking over the block, we never stop. In the alleys where the echoes play. Toyleet's the name, hear what we say. Rising, thriving, always thriving. In our realm, we're always thriving. Toyleet, bring the street, the Toyleet, setting the pace. With a snap on the case and a click of the lock. Toyleet's on top and we're ready to rock. Collecting more than just toys, we're up. We're up. We're up.
Hey, what's happening?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Oh, doing good, man. Doing good. It's a beautiful,
dude.
beautiful day in Western New York today. So, you know,
Was it like 80 degrees out there for you?
I think it was like 75 when I was out in the woods earlier.
Okay. Yeah, it was getting up there today for me. I mean, I was in an office most of the day, and I did get out, and I set up my robot mower to get my robot mower started, and I got the pump going for the pool, so we got things going there and rocking and rolling. So definitely
open that baby up, right?
Well, it's open. It's just got to get cleaned out. I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance. The pool guys came into the opening about a week or so ago. Pump went bad, and they installed another one last Friday. But with everything over the weekend, I didn't get a chance to get out there and make those changes and clean it up. So, yeah, but otherwise, it's good, man.
And you never know what kind of weather we're going to have in May because it could be damn right.
We could have hail tomorrow.
Yep, exactly.
Good deal. So, you know, he's, if I'm doing this right, he's Ed Axion Figs.
And that's Mr. Wonderful, Travis. And together
Awesome. And we are Toyleet. So, you know, we've been at this a few weeks now, 7 weeks. We were just on the Hella Dope show on Sunday, hyping this up. So for those that are following us and joined in, you know, we really appreciate you guys subscribing and, joining in on the conversation. But, you know, what we do here is we do a number of things, right? You know, we talk about, us taking over, right? Because that's what it's all about, you know, taking over Toyleet. So, every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, 9:05 at the latest, we try to get going. Sometimes run into some technical difficulties, but, we get rocking and rolling, but we like to spend some time talking about plastic. You know, it's our passion, right? And, we don't just talk about toys. We talk about, what is it? You say, I think, Ed, you kind of coined it correctly, is toy adjacent, pop culture stuff, so it could include comics, movies. You know, like tomorrow night, I'm going to check out that new Planet of the Apes movie. So we'll be sure to talk about that next week. So spoiler alert for next week. We will talk a little bit about that.
That's tomorrow. I thought that was the 10th.
It comes out on Friday, but I went and ordered early release passes so I could see it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I thought it was later on in the
week. With it being Mother's Day weekend coming up, I kind of dedicate that to the wife and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually headed out west this weekend myself in New York to go out to what's that place called? The Falls there. There's a race course and stuff. I can't think of what it's called.
The W one.
Yeah, starts with a W. I can't think of what it's called. It'll come to me in a second because I'm gonna open my phone and look it up. But it's we're going out to Watkins Glen. Yeah,
Watkins Glen. Are you hiking in the park?
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that for a little bit.
It's beautiful.
I've never been there before.
Oh, dude,
the wife likes that stuff, so we're gonna do some of that on Saturday. It's supposed to be, hopefully the weather holds up. If it doesn't, we'll hold off. But that was good. That's why I'm going to be seeing the Planet of the Apes thing tomorrow night. But we'll talk about that next week. And assuming you get a chance to see it by then, Ed. If you don't, we'll shelve it for when you have had a chance to discuss it. But yeah, we talk about that. We like to shout out people in the community, and that's one of Ed's real big passions here is championing the peers. And I don't know if you want to talk about that or if you want to talk about it a little bit later, Ed.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. It's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Then we'll go through the Toyleet or Toylet. Is it an elite figure? Is it something you like to hold on to? Or is it something you want to give a flush to, which we are working on some really cool soundbite piece for that, which we're hoping to introduce next week. When I say introduce that would mean we have to have something to flush. So we'll have to get something and see if it falls into the bucket.
Yeah, we'll have to flush something.
Yeah. Then we talk about weekly news. And again, as you know, Ed, and I think you say it best, if you want to talk about, go to someone else if you want to see mainline stuff, right?
Yeah, we don't cover the mainline stuff in the news. Pretty much, primarily all the independent stuff and stuff that's not actually really publicized, like the stuff from Hasbro and Mattel, and even some of the other stuff. I mean, like we cover a little bit of Valaverse, and they're getting big. Cover a little bit of Mythic Legions, they're getting pretty big, but we still cover them. But yeah, the mainline stuff that you see every day. You got Robo, you got Punk, you got a bunch of other guys that do a better job at that kind of stuff than we could. So
yeah, absolutely. And then that's part of the weekly news piece, and then we always have our main topic.
yes,
And this week we got an interesting topic, so I'm going to go ahead and throw up a little blip on that, a little preview of what we're going to be talking about.
Hit the lights, Toyleet's on the mic, catching figs and Mr. Wonderful, they just right. From screen gems to your hands tonight, we're bridging two worlds with all of might. See the action, feel the frames, convert to plastic, that's the game. TV scenes and blockbuster dreams, we mold them into action teams. Action figs leading the charge, Mr. Wonderful, he's living large. From Gotham's nights, the stars so bright, they turn celluloid into play fight.
In the end, it's more than just play. It's the stories we tell in a molded way. Toyleet's here with a cinematic spin, turning film scenes into wins.
And every toy tells a tale underneath a sail, beyond the veil. Film and toys forever intertwined. In every box, the stories bind. Grab your figures, set the stage. From the quiet screen to a fan's rage. With every set, with every build, the magic of the movies is fulfilled.
good beat,
So,
man.
yeah, hey man, I thought that came out pretty good, brother. So, a little, like, we like to add a little spin to it every week with that. Take a few minutes and
Oh yeah,
put a little piece together to preview it. So, we'll be talking about movies. Movie merch is, I think, what we kind of titled it with. The statement being, how movies and toys, or film and toys, film and TV influence toys.
yes.
So we'll talk about that. I think that's a good, interesting topic that we'll talk about, and
I agree.
I think there probably could be a lot of conversation from the community on that, which will be interesting. I'm really interested to hear what folks say about that. So yeah. With that said, Ed, did you get anything cool this week?
No, I did not. I have
Okay.
not been. I'm trying to behave because I have Joe Fest coming up. So
Oh yes, Joe Fest. We got to get those. We got to get those stickers made, man. I was just
Yes.
checking some stuff out this morning, so we got to get those stickers made because we want to get people, some of the cool new logo and some of the Toyleet stuff. But yeah, I got a couple things this week. I got this. I got another Onyx figure. It's one of the what do they call these?
Ancients.
The army builders, the legions. Is that what it was?
Ancients.
Ancients, thank you. Ancients are very basic. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to use this for some for a custom, kind of like pop and swap custom. Nothing crazy that I want to do. I broke the last one because I didn't know how I was supposed to take it apart, so I had to get a second one. And I did get one other thing, but before I go into that, because that's going to be my Toyleet or Toylet segment this week. Do you want to hit up the chat and see what other folks are? Who's here?
Yeah. So Matthew Matson was here first, and he's like,
What's up, Matt?
"We are waiting." I told him that we are starting soon, and since we're big time like Punk, that we arrive when we intend to arrive. That's it is right.
That's how it is. We run the show, right?
That's
Because
right.
that's what Toyleet is, right?
Yeah. And Todd C is here. What's up, guys? And we got the Briscoe 1, 2, 3, 4. Briscoe, what's happening, brother? And then we got the Northern Nomad. We ain't as cool as the hella dope guys and give you the what's up, suckers? But
I thought about grabbing that for him and finding that audio, but that's hella dope's thing. I'm gonna let that be.
That's right. So what's up, Nomad? And then we got Roll Keeper in the house. What's happening, Roll Keeper? Thanks for coming over from Sunday night show. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
We got Figuratively Speaking, John's here. What's up, John? And let's see, what is Matthew Matson got at Savage Crucible yesterday. Got some
You son of a beep.
I think he said on his Instagram that he got 3 shipments. So he had a shipment of the comic books, a shipment of the
Oh wow.
the dial thing, whatever the hell that was called, the decoder or whatever, the decoder ring, and then got a shipment of his figure. So
I don't know how that works, right? Because I'm interested in that because I got the decoder ring and the the book a while back, like right after the Kickstarter funded. Within like 30 days or so, I got all that stuff. I think I got it. I got all the coins. I mean, I know I have that stuff. I didn't know if there's more that I didn't know about.
He
But,
might have ordered it late in the Kickstarter
Okay.
or something. I don't
Gotcha.
know. And then Wraith Mace is here too. What's up, Wraith? Thanks for dropping in.
Absolutely.
And everybody else just saying hi to each other. So
Awesome.
let's go
Very
on
good.
to the Toyleet or Toilet.
Toyleet or Toilet. So this figure came from our friends over at the Sunday night show, Hella Dope Toys. This arrived last week. I opened it over the weekend. This is my Ken Street Fighter Jada Toys. Thank you for doing that, Ed. I appreciate that. This toy is I thought I ordered this a long time ago, and I was sitting there going, maybe Hella Dope's just keeping a stash for me. And then I messaged them like, hey, did I order Ken? And they were like, nah, dude, you didn't. And I was like, crap, I need to get that. So I went ahead, I grabbed that. It was delivered. I opened it up, what they always do. They wrap and, they take care of your stuff. Your stuff comes, mint on card or as close as fresh mint as it can. I got them. I opened them up. It's just like Ryu. It's the same buck, a little bit different color, skin tone, not by much though. Definitely the head matches the video game. I will say this one, what I have noticed, and I don't know if this is a habitual thing with this figure, his right arm, his fist seems to come out a little bit. So I always feel like I'm pushing it in to make it so you don't see that gap at the wrist, which is weird. Maybe I just need to heat it up and put it in one good time. Yeah.
I know, I know Ryu doesn't have that issue. So
yeah. I love these figures. I've seen other streamers talk about the Street Fighter stuff and the Jada. Jada's been around for a long time. I don't typically, as you said, we don't talk typically about a lot of the mainline stuff, but during the Toyleet stuff, we talk about whatever we picked up. So it could be a mainline. Jada, I think, kind of falls into that space with them, or at least is showing that between the Mega Man. They were doing all those, the cereal boxes. They did the monster stuff there, the monsters and stuff like the Dracula, Frankenstein type stuff. But like with this one, I wasn't disappointed. Again, they're reusing the mold, so I will not put this one in the toilet. This one would go on the shelf next to the rest of the Street Fighters, and like they have really good posability. They seem to be very weighted, very balanced, so that you can and I don't have the angle on the camera here, but you can keep them standing up without having to necessarily use a stand or anything like that. They do pretty good with minimal, adjusting there, so you can do some dynamic poses. I'm really pleased with it. One of the things that I give this the Toyleet for is because the rumors we're hearing, which I don't know how true they are, but there's been some hints to the fact that Storm Collectibles lost the Mortal Kombat license, is suspended or something like that.
Really?
Something like it and things like that. I saw some streams over the last few days, where they were talking about it a little bit more. But a few weeks ago, it was kind of suggested that Storm Collectibles lost the license, or at least that it was suspended temporarily. And there in Jada, I saw something online that Jada had hinted towards, I think they said 2 words, what do you think? Or a few words like, what do you think? Or should we, or something like that in the Instagram post. I guess it's all been kind of scrubbed at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was like something somebody else did and kind of just, suggested it, or if maybe they spoke too soon before they could. But I've been saying it since the Jada Street Fighter figures came out, how kick-ass it would be if they could somehow get the Mortal Kombat license too, because they're doing such a good job. The price point on it is amazing. And if they could put out, Sub-Zero and Johnny Cage and all of those figures, Reptile, Scorpion,
that was the problem with the Storm Collectibles, is that it was, they weren't to scale for Jada Toys figures, and they were extra, they were a lot more expensive than
they were more in line with like a McFarlane, from my understanding. I don't own any of them, but I saw them, and McFarlane's a little out of scale for what you're looking for. But with the Tekken figures and now the Jada line here, I'm really happy with it. So this is a Toyleet figure, and this will get put on the shelf with the rest of them.
Toyleet.
Still only one toilet, and that was my Cody Rhodes last week, because they really dropped the ball on that one. So
so we're gonna pop through the chat real quick, because Matthew answered the question. The book and decoder were made before the Kickstarter. Yeah, we were just wondering how you got yours just recently. That's all, I guess.
Yeah.
He also said Ken is awesome and he really wants M. Bison. The M. Bison figure looks really good with that cloth
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah, I want that one. I'm not so much. There's another one, I Dalsung or whatever his name is.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his. I'll get him to be a completist, but like the figure, it looks good. It's just he wasn't a character I ever was like, oh, I need him. I really want, and I could be saying the name wrong, Blanca or whatever.
Blanca,
like that's one that I want to see. That'll be a cool one.
He said not to worry, he's just limp wristed.
Oh, that would be cool.
Let's see what
I
else.
think Roll Keeper, yeah.
It's good to alternate hands and heads here and there. It prevents limpness. Yep. It's definitely good to alternate hands because that way you don't, get one that ends up your favorite.
Right.
Storm Collectibles is just too expensive across the board, period. Absolutely.
I don't own a single one of them.
Yeah.
Never have.
Yeah, he's doing the Mantis style, practicing that too much for the limp wrist.
Gotcha. Yeah, it would be cool for some Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I would prefer the Resident Evil to be in traditional scale, like traditional 6-inch scale, so it could fly in with the Valaverse and Monster Force and classified stuff. I think they could do a cool job with it. I just don't think I'd want it tied into the same scale they're doing these Street Fighter figures in.
Yeah.
Just because I wouldn't use them together, and I think they would fit more with those military and Monster Force type things.
Didn't get them just now. Oh, he got he got them after the Kickstarter also. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Just got the figures yesterday. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm waiting on mine.
missed
I got 3 shipment orders coming. I was notified of them the other day. I sent you a message over the weekend because I got all pumped up. I was at my daughter's Sweet 16 party, and I started getting shop alerts and stuff. And I was like, yes. And my daughter's like, I'm happy you're happy. And I'm like, yes, it's so because of your party. So, so that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. You'll definitely be seeing me provide context and feedback on those. I know Punk has thrown out some struggles with the foot articulation and support, and I know that there was some videos shared by them around that.
Yeah, there was a couple of people that have had that issue, but I mean, I guess it's one of those things, right? First time out, first time figs, you're going to have issues, right?
Yep.
Secondly, sometimes like I have I think it's an older Marvel Lizard figure that has that same type of feet and the same type of ankles, and he has the same problem. So it's like maybe it's just a design flaw in making.
Lizard. Yeah, they made a comment about something working with the factories to try to improve on it and stuff. So I'm hoping. I mean, I have no doubt they've put such a quality product out there already.
Yeah.
Like if that's the only weakness, well, granted, it can be frustrating, especially for like the photographers. I've seen a lot of really cool work folks have done with the photography already. So I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised with the improvements they'll make. And hey, Allison, thanks for joining.
Yeah,
and thank you for the tag. Oh, look who else showed up.
Look at this guy. What's up, Ted?
Hey, Ted. So I think that's it. I think that brings us to the slides here, right?
Brings us to the news.
Yeah. Well, not the news. The shout out from the crick, right? I think we're going to go
from the crick first. You're right. Yep. Shout out from the crick. The shout out from the crick this week is going to Thanos Copter, the Thanos Copter.
Yes. Before you go too heavy into that, I just want to call out a couple things. It was fairly difficult to find photography that I felt comfortable displaying here, but I did find some.
So Thanos has a lot of saucy pictures, let's call them.
Yes, that's a great one. Saucy.
They're saucy pictures. He also does a lot of regular, Marvel, Mythic Legions and Masters of the Universe pictures. He's been doing a show on Sunday mornings, basically like his journey through toy photography from when he started a year ago or whatever, and just where he is now and and you could see, like, if you watch his first episode up to what he's at now, I think he's like halfway through his time, and you can see the actual improvement in his, lighting and his, focusing and, shifting, different areas and stuff. So definitely check out Thanos. A lot of his pictures on our IG are not safe for work, so don't open them up unless you're in the cubicle by yourself. But check out his Sunday show on his YouTube. He's because of his saucy pics, he's lost some subscribers because they don't want to subscribe to someone that does saucy action figure pics. But we're all adults, so he's a good time. Thanos is a really cool guy. He's very supportive. He's out in the community all the time. I think he mods for just as many, maybe even more other channels than I do.
Yeah.
So, he's always around. He's always supportive, always liking everybody's picks and stuff. So, go give him a follow on IG and give him a sub on YouTube. _Thanos Copter.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and just to echo that, while some of his photography might not be my cup of tea, I still follow and subscribe to him. He has some good content there, and he biggest thing is he's just an all around good dude. So that's why I wanted to champion him. So supportive in the community. Like you said, he's in so many chats if he's just listening, but also sometimes he's in there and he's, oftentimes he's in there modding for folks, and you can often find him out on the, I think he's often on the Saturday Night Clubhouse with Oz and friends.
Yes,
right?
he's on almost every Saturday with me and Oz and all them on the Saturday Night Clubhouse on Ostradamus Toys channel.
Awesome. Good deal. Cool. So then I think that brings us to the weekly news, right? So we'll go ahead and jump into the weekly news. And this is, the weekly news with Mr. Wonderful. So
this is the wonderful weekly news. That's what we're going to call this segment. The wonderful weekly news.
I like that. It's got a special ring to it. Sounds kind of wonderful. Yeah. So we got a couple new entries to the page here. To show off here. This is a line that I had been following. I kept forgetting to throw it in here the last few weeks, but it's something I just wanted to cover and bring highlight to. So I don't know a lot about this line, just that I came across it. I thought it was really cool. I think they had been doing 4-inch, if I recall, like some smaller figures and whatnot. I don't know if they were injection molded or if they were 3D printed. I couldn't tell, but I know that they're going forward with a Kickstarter, and there's actually a preview of what one of the Kickstarter characters is. And what I think is really cool, and at least from my understanding, is that the figures that they're creating are actually members of the U.S. military, right? Or at least were active members of the U.S. military.
They're veterans that have actually served, for sure.
Yeah. So which I thought was really cool, because they do so much for all of us that are in the U.S. and really in some cases globally for other areas. But, to have that opportunity to have them immortalized into a little plastic action figure that others can purchase and stuff. And it looks like it comes with some dog tags and comes with some true to life looking, military weapons. I think that's really cool. So it gives you some additional loadouts and additional, 6-inch scale figures to play in lines with your classifieds, your Valiverse, your Monster Force, and, all of those lines that are kind of, in that same space. So interesting line. This one, again, this is a mock-up of Sean U.S. Army. It says that
the cool thing is go ahead. I was just going to say,
go ahead.
What the cool thing is, from what I could tell on the 3D renders, the weapons that they're going to include are actually legit weapons, as well as the figures are real life dudes and dudettes that are been serving our country. Yep.
So then here they say, what I saw on the post here is that for this, his figure will come with an M14. It's a modded MK14, which is a modded M14, and an M9 Beretta. Says Sean also is also the author of the Ghosts of Valor. So he's a writer and author of a book. And that the Kickstarter campaign for this is planned for June 22nd of this year. So the U.S. military action figure line will be kicked off at that point. So I'm really excited. That's one that I think a lot of folks will be paying attention to, especially those that are looking for those roster fillers in the Joes and the Valiverse and stuff. It'll be interesting because with regards to the classifieds, they've been coming out with so much product so frequently. It's hard to like collect it all, right? Because the price, and there's just so much of it. And they're doing a great job with it. So it'll be interesting to see how well this one does. If this had come out 2.5 years ago, I could guarantee that this would have funded, and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see if this continues forward and funds. I really hope it does. But I'm curious to see, because Joe's done such a pivot in correcting some of the concerns.
I guarantee this will, I don't know how much they're going to ask for, like further figures and stuff for the Kickstarter, but it's something that I will definitely, back just to support the veterans, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm sure part of their proceeds will be going to, veterans programs, which I'm very supportive of.
Yeah, I don't know all the details on
Yep.
there. I don't know the product line close enough, but I imagine with the Kickstarter, it'll they'll definitely be they'll be spreading the news on all of that.
Yep.
So it's like I said, it's coming out. Custom U.S. veteran figures are currently available on the site, but they're going to be doing a Kickstarter with a bunch of this. Very similar articulation that you see across most of the other military 6-inch scale lines.
Yep.
Or 1/12 scale lines. So
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see what comes to fruition out of these. So then from there, we'll go into Fist. So not much of an update here, other than there was an image that caught my eye that I thought looked really cool, and it was just another image of I think this is called like the Nighthawk, if I remember correctly. I think that's what they were calling it. It could be
Night Wolf.
Night Wolf. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, the Night Wolf. So just another, I don't know if this is a different print, a sample print or whatnot, but
This
again,
is the smaller. This is the smaller one.
Oh, so this isn't the. Oh, you're right. This is the 2-door versus the 4-door, huh?
Yep. This
Didn't
is
even
the one
pick
that
up
doesn't
on
have,
that.
Yeah, this is the one that doesn't have the big like bed in the back either for the figure.
Okay.
It's got a
I
smaller
didn't
bed.
even catch that. That's interesting.
It's a 2-door. Yeah.
That's
Well,
impressive.
I don't know if they're
gonna
going to be doing both, or they're going to try doing the smaller one first and then see how that goes. I'm not really sure what their plan is, but
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, because to put two large scale, I assume not relatively inexpensive, products out there. I At the same time, it'll be interesting. Classifieds can get away with it. Valaverse has got one line out there, smaller market share that they have covered. So, Fist being even, in my opinion, smaller at this point, it'll be interesting to see how they approach the ordering for this and stuff. But I know things are supposed to be coming this summer.
Fist has a big following in South America, though. So
Yeah.
and there's a huge military following in South America. Like there are still 12-inch GI Joe type of figures being made in South America, and they sell absolutely fine.
Gotcha. Good deal. Cool. So that's kind of all I had there. I just wanted to preview that. So this wouldn't be the Night Wolf, right? This would be the smaller version of that. Then.
Yeah,
So maybe
whatever
it's got a different name. I'll have to do some
sure.
more digging before next week, and I'm sure more news will continue to come out on this. Oh, cool. Then Let's Get Brutal. So this is from Brutal Realms. We're going to cover some stuff there. So you saw a preview last week during the news. We showed off what they were asking if people were interested in a female buck versus a furry buck, is essentially what they alluded to. And they alluded to having a furry buck for some sort of King of the Lions or King of the Pride or Leaders of the Lions was in their original kind of post. Yeah. And as you can see, they were hinting towards a Thundercats figure. Yeah. So they showed this this mock-up. I think they refer to it as Lion Lord. Which they're going to be, as part of their Kickstarter, they plan to have this on there, which will be interesting because I think it's another cool looking head sculpt. And I feel like this is kind of interesting because it makes me think of what the Four Horsemen have done with some of their retro inspired figures. So I'm sure this is going to catch a lot of people's interest.
Yeah, there's a lot of Thundercats fans out there, and a lot of people, that like to get these types of homages to the figures they had. That's one of the things that Mythic Legions has done well with Masters of the Universe, is put out plenty of homages to different things. Yep. So
so not much of an update other than that, Kickstarter, it's when they have that ready to go. I haven't seen a date. Again, tune in here and we'll be sure to share that.
The only thing I'd be concerned with this figure is them actually being able to produce it, because it's so close to the real Lino that it might get dinged for copyright, because it's a little farther along the lines than just an homage, because it's pretty much Lino in bigger form with the different face.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pursues. I mean, even the sword has nearly the logo inspired in the center,
the red eye in the middle of it and everything. Yep.
Yeah. So I think it looks cool.
It looks cool for sure.
I definitely want the head sculpt. The head sculpt looks cool. One that I would definitely use elsewhere if I could. The next one is Valaverse. They've been doing their Saturday morning streams for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. It feels like leading up to Joe Fest, they wanted to announce their 100th figure in the line. So they announced it, and it ended up being Bone Collector, an alternative version is their 100th. So, you know, Bobby had his stream there where he talked about how he wanted to bring forward for his 100th figure a Redux version of where it all started, because I guess this was the first figure that he kind of inspired through his line of the Action Force. And you know, I think it looks like a cool figure. I'm not often one that would collect a lot of figures that are the redundant versions of them, unless it's an army builder. Though this one I could see potentially getting one or two of them because I like the armor set. It's definitely unique and different compared to the other one. They also, from my understanding, have 100
bloody variants.
100 bloody variants of it, which look really cool. It actually makes me think, and I don't know if for those who have watched it, but The Purge. I don't know if folks have seen the movie The Purge. If you have, I don't know which one it is. It's either the first or second. It must be the second one. When they're running through the city, there's a creepy dude who is in like a big bread truck or whatever, and he's like butchering people in the back of the truck, and like he has like a butcher, you know, apron on and stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of this version of Bone Collector makes me think of that guy, very much so. And I could probably go ahead.
Yeah, I'd probably get this figure only because I really, really like the helmet.
I like the helmet, but I feel like what I would do is I would likely just put the helmet on and get one or two of these guys and have them be like the army builder versions with Bone Collector, so that I wouldn't use them as Bone Collector. I would actually use them as
his guards or his minions or something. Yeah,
yeah. If I was building, you know, armies and wanted to display them, I'd probably get two of them. You know, have him be, you know, have the normal Bone Collector that I have from the earlier releases, from, you know, wave 1, and I would have him center, and I'd have these two, you know, turret wielding maniacs with the ram head on it. So
I mean, the original Bone Collector mask was pretty damn awesome anyway. So this one is.
I haven't even had it out of my packaging in a while, so I don't remember exactly what it looks like. So I'll have to go back and check it. But I do remember liking my favorite my favorite 3 characters from Valaverse were, I think it was Trigger, who looked like a kind of you know, mercenary.
He's your typical military operative. And every action movie has that guy.
Exactly. Yeah, not the main character, but like the second guy, the badass who walks in like, so what happened? You know, and just blows something up. But then it was Bone Collector and Carrick. So this version of Bone Collector, it's interesting to me, and I love the other Bone Collector. I just don't know that I would use this as Bone Collector. And it's interesting how they're going to do the 100 limited edition item, you know, version. I think there's 100 total, if I understood correctly, that are going to have the gold plated stand. It's the old stand, not the new stand, and it's gold plated, and it's the bloody variant. But they're going to have them in the same kind of box that Condor was in. So even when you go to the conventions, he used the example of like Willy Wonka, like you open up that Wonka bar and you're ripping apart the box to see which figures actually in the package. So it'll be interesting.
So it's going to be a hidden box. Closed.
It's box. It's a blind box.
Box. That's
it's a blind chance of getting the limited edition one. So I think it's going to force some folks to spend quite a bit of money if they really want one of those.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, I guess.
So and that'll be at the DFW as the first release. And he also mentioned that he will have them at other conventions after Joe Fest for the rest of the year, with the intention that if there's a balance, if there's like, you know, some reserves still available, he would likely have those available on the website later on in the year, towards the end, maybe early next year, if you know, quantities are available. And then any other add-ons for this, or you good here?
Nope, we're good.
Awesome. The next one is 4 Horsemen. So I think this may be the first time we've had 4 Horsemen on the show. So a couple new you know, newsworthy items, and wanted to kind of cover what I think is their second day announcement for Legions Con this year. So what they have is a 2-pack of Cosmic Legions, where from my understanding, they've gone ahead and it's all current figures, all current pieces that they already had, just with alternative paints, and then configured a little differently to give these 2 characters. And something you pointed out to me, Ed, is you were suggesting that one of these is kind of an homage to Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, the guy with the red head, his armor is kind of done like an homage to Boba Fett. And if you look at the other guy's head, it's kind of painted up like a Predator head. So it's kind of,
absolutely.
It's kind of like
Very
an
much saw
homage
that.
to both. So, and he's got the claw arms, like the Predators, do and stuff like that. So, pretty cool set. I definitely want this Cosmic Legion set. Also cool that it comes with 4 different heads, like you said. They're all repaint heads, but the new colors on these is excellent. I love it.
Yeah, these are cool. I'm hoping to attend Legion's Con this year, so if that were to the case, I will likely grab a couple of these just to add to my Cosmic figures, even though I was on the fence whether I was going to keep collecting the Cosmics because I'm so into more of the fantasy world stuff right now, but it's like, do I want to miss out? So we'll see.
Yeah. FOMO is a bitch.
Yeah. And then that's what I have for the weekly news this week, Ed. So
all right.
Gonna go ahead and before we jump into the next piece, we're gonna just throw up that video
for let's pop through the chat real quick.
Yeah, hit the chat up. That's perfect.
So Briscoe said he would love some Resident Evil figs from Resident Evil 1, including Veronica, and he was talking to Rollkeeper. Fat Trid has showed up. Mr. Fu, what's happening? Robert's Infinite Realms is showing up. What's up, Robert? Thanks for
happy to see Robert.
Yeah.
Who I was chatting with a little bit on the Facebook earlier today. He knows about the Toyleet takeover, so we're doing our thing.
And he says that's Lionel meets Fabio.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Nomad says, sort of omens, give me sight beyond sight. Yes, that's exactly it. Matthew says he's releasing, it's their 100th item, not their 100th figure, and it also comes out before 92 to 99. Well, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. Got to get that stuff out there for those shows, because that's what he did last year. Yeah, that's what he did last year with that Swarm, the Crimson Sword dude from PowerCon. He put that intentionally just for those things. So, let's see, what else does he say? Helmet looks cool. Contractor. Yeah, that's what Trigger looks like. Yep. Military contractor. Yep. And then Fat Red specifically says hi to me and you. So, Fat Red Foo is a cool dude. Everybody he's the newest dude in the community that's been around for a little while that has more names than anybody I've ever met. So he's called Fat Red, Hatred, Foo, Fat Red Foo, Mr. Foo. He's got quite a few names. So
yeah, absolutely.
And Allison says, oh, that would be epic. Code Veronica was the last one I played. So perfect. Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. And that's it for the chat. So let's roll into the topic.
Topic of this week, which if you've been here since the beginning, we kind of previewed it. We'll throw it up.
Hit the lights, Toyleet's on the mic, catching figs and Mr. Wonderful, they just right. From screen gems to your hands tonight, we're bridging 2 worlds with all of might. See the action, feel the frames, convert to plastic, that's the game. TV scenes and blockbuster dreams, we mold them into action teams. Action figs leading the charge, Mr. Wonderful, he's living large. From Gotham's nights, the stars so bright, they turn celluloid into play fight.
In the end, it's more than just play. It's the stories we tell in a molded way. Toyleet's here with a cinematic spin, turning film scenes into wins.
And every toy tells a tale underneath a sail beyond the veil. Film and toys forever intertwined. In every box, the stories bind. Grab your figures, set the stage from the quiet screen to a fan's rage. With every set, with every build, the magic of the movies is fulfilled.
Awesome. It's just that beat. It just gets me like bobbing, man. It's like it's got this move to it.
I need a lowrider to drive through town with the bass speakers in the back of my truck.
Yeah, thumping.
Yeah,
absolutely. Good deal. So movie merch, right? And as you can see, with your recommendation today, Ed, we did a little screen cap of the original space thriller, Spaceballs, because it is fuel the Schwartz.
Yes, it was called a space opera, and this is the original space opera, which was robbed of its just its pure beauty.
Uniqueness.
Yeah, and now some other guy made a different movie that was a ripoff and made all sorts of merch, and that's what we're stuck with nowadays.
Yeah,
Yogurt could have been a millionaire. He was just
exactly. I mean, he was on.
didn't have a good enough lawyer. That's all.
That's what it was. That's what it was. So as we're talking about the movie merch, I thought it made sense to talk about, and have the Spaceball merch in the background here. But really, what we want to talk about is how that the merchandise is influenced by the television or the movie screen, right? So forever and a day things, and I'll let you talk about some of the things that you and I were discussing earlier about this and whatnot. But we really want to just talk about kind of historically how things have impacted the toy industry. I think most people think of toys being influenced so drastically by the movies when you think of Star Wars. I think that is like the biggest one. It was like a turning point for time. But that's not where it all started. No, that is not where it all started at all.
I think the Star Wars thing was a Lucas. Lucas really got into the merch heavy because he expanded it from just toys. He went to T-shirts and coloring books and toys and school products and everything. Right? He was a master at merchandising. Right? Yeah. But and that was an explosion. But it's definitely not where it started, right? I mean, you go back to the 50s and 60s when, there was a lot of Westerns on TV and Johnny West, made by Marx, was one of the biggest toys in the market, especially for action figures. They were just simple. They were just basically like a current action figure without double joints in a 12-inch form. I mean, they were just solid plastic, had plastic and rubberized, pistols and cowboy hats, and the Native Americans had bows and arrows and all that stuff, right? And they did, Johnny West was the main character, but they did they did some of the famous guys like Wyatt Earp and guys from TV shows back in the day. And then you went through from there, and you went into like Zorro and the Lone Ranger with Gabrielle making, Lone Ranger and Zorro figures with Tonto and the horses and all that stuff. So
now what I think is interesting is you keep talking about action figures, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's what we tend to gravitate towards, but I don't think we can limit it to just that. And I think you alluded to what Spielberg did with Star Wars, and I almost messed that up. But I think it goes beyond that even further back, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, like
you're talking action figures, and I just want to point this out, right? Is that cap guns to play the cowboys and whatnot. So you had that, and you even had like those horse heads, right, that were on a pole that you would kind of run around with.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, when it was called Cowboys and Indians,
right.
everybody had a belt with the 6-shooter and the, like you
or
said, the hobby horses, they called it, right? And
so I mean, those things, and those were big, right? Like the Western movies and stuff, and television shows. Like my father-in-law used to watch those. My oldest son always laughs about it because Saturday or Sunday, if we're visiting him after he spent the day doing his yard work, we pop in and he'd have those on, that influenced a ton of toys itself, right? So.
Yep.
Excuse me.
I remember when I was a kid, on the afternoons, my older brother was at school, and he was my best friend growing up, and waiting for him to come home. There was the Lone Ranger on TV, and then the Cisco Kid, and the Cisco Kid was like a Mexican version of the Lone Ranger. He had a sidekick that was named Pancho, and
Yeah, so I mean, we can talk about how it's historically played a huge impact in toys and as a whole. So play, you have all of that, and then you saw the massive change or the massive influence that Star Wars projected on the things. There's a lot.
And if you look like during the 70s, Mego came out, and actually Captain Action came out in the late 60s, and then in the 70s they had the superhero resurgence during the that time with Mego having the rights to both Marvel and DC. And then there was an underwear brand that was Underoos. I don't know if you were old enough to remember.
I've heard of them.
Underoos were superhero themed t-shirt and underwear set that all of us kids had to have back in that time. It was
gotcha.
So yeah, And then, that's kind of when, of course, there was the time when Kenner was making the $6 Million Man based off the $6 Million Man TV show with Lee Majors and the Bionic Woman. And then Hasbro, in their G.I. Joe line of the Adventure Team, came out with the Super Adventure Team, which had Mike Power, which was or their version of the $6 Million Man that was never it was going to be licensed, and then they lost the license, so they made that version instead of because they lost the license to Kenner at the time.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean that's the historical impact at a high level, right? There's been a lot of things that started off. We kind of look at it from the early Western days and all of the, beyond blocks is kind of what I would call it. Like beyond blocks, what toys were folks playing with or kids playing with and stuff and whatnot. And obviously back then it wasn't the same level of collectible that it is today. I would be, I'd even suggest that back then, if there was a collector of something, it was probably someone's dad or grandfather who was a train collector.
Or stamps.
And they were stamps or trains or coins, right? But I think of like if you're thinking in the line of toys, I would think of the closest thing would be that person who has that major train thing in their basement. So there's a lot of things, but
I think a lot of the toys, and stuff back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s was a lot more role playing toys, where you had the cowboy hat and the pistol belt and the military sets that were made by Stony Marks that were army helmets and canteen sets and compasses and things like that. So there's a lot of role play back then that was inspired.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I mean outdoors, right? They locked the doors and sent you out and said, "Don't come back till the sun comes down."
Yeah.
But those were the types of toys you played with back then and whatnot. But as you think about how I think of the historical impact things have had. I think of Star Wars, and that was like the big milestone of when it started to transition to that economic influence, right? Because
Star Wars did two things, right? Star Wars not only influenced merchandising as a whole and how it could tie to an IP that was just a random space movie that wasn't even supposed to be successful, right? And also they were the cause of the explosion of all of the space toys, which we discussed last week, right? I mean, they were
exactly,
that was them.
Yeah. So I mean, those cover a lot of a lot of area, but what it's done is it allowed a lot of these toy companies. They were already established, but it allowed some to fall by the wayside as others grew into, conglomerates. Essentially, you have your Hasbro's, your Mattels. Why you have the big two, because they were able to get behind things like these IPs, like Star Wars and the other, GI Joes, things like that, right?
Yep.
But it massively influences the financial benefits of those companies to that, because when you think of a movie and it comes out. And I'll talk more towards more recent years. If a movie's coming out, you can throw something on the shelf. It's probably immediately going to be tied to being able to sell. And an example is which was it? What was it? RoboCop. Sorry, I say more recent, but when they came out with RoboCop, they had toys. The RoboCop movies weren't meant for kids, yet you were able to market a toy line based on the movie to kids because you threw it out in toy form. So they were able to generate a separate revenue.
Yeah, if you go into the 80s, I mean, you had a bunch of movies that were not made for kids. They got turned into cartoons and then turned into toy lines, or turned into toy lines then to cartoons. Like you had Rambo, which was not for kids.
Oh yeah,
RoboCop, as you mentioned. Chuck Norris and his Ninja Commandos.
Was Aliens the 80s?
Yeah, Aliens.
Okay.
Alien was 79, so 80s for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that kind of all impacts it, right? And I talk about how this influences the behavior of folks from the movies, TV to a toy. It's able to market it, and we see this in present day stuff. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, right? They have a comic. Valaverse has their comic. Savage Crucible has their comic. While it's not movies, I think those and actually Action Force Valaverse has suggested that they do have a movie potentially coming. So I imagine
it ties into it, right? Because people have learned that a media tie-in even if you can't afford to do a movie or a cartoon, a media tie-in
Yep.
definitely helps promote product, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
those things
that's
that
what
you
it is.
mentioned, Savage Crucible, AWOC is directed towards a different type of market than all the other ones that are
Yeah.
mainline, right? But I
Yeah,
mean,
for
like
sure.
back in the 80s and 90s, if there was a cartoon, you can guarantee there was a toy line for it, right? There was
Well, they
for
had
the like the
laws
girls, right?
specifically for that, right?
Yeah, like you go to the
They had
girls stuff,
laws.
right? Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake and Rainbow Bright, they all had dolls. My sister had them all, right? It was
Yep.
like all those cartoons, everything that had a cartoon or a TV show that could be made into some kind of merchandise was definitely made into merchandise. And that's
Yeah,
pretty much all thanks to George Lucas.
100%. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to is that like the cross media allows for the success or potentially failure of a product
Yep.
or movie. It could, I didn't realize it probably until the last 10 years. My youngest son was heavily into Paw Patrol, and it didn't hit me until like middle of his massive amounts of collecting of these different figures for the Paw Patrol stuff. And it was when he was younger, but I was like, man, I was like I'm sure nobody was like, oh, this Paw Patrol would be this really cool world and story. No, no, no. It was literally like it's made to sell the toy. It wasn't made.
Yep.
It wasn't the toy before the. It was. I'm sorry. It wasn't the show before the toy. It was the toy before the show. And they're like, oh, we can make a show about these toys or
Yep.
these people and make toys. And like it opened my mind up to something that I'd be completely oblivious for so long to. And when you think about it, it's just an interesting perspective. And I think from a failure perspective, if you look back to, I think it was like GI Joe, the second movie that they came out with. I think it was the one The Rock was with. I think the toy line for that series, that movie, hit the shelves either before or after the movie, and they just rotted. And it's
Same with the Snake Eyes movie, right? There was a long time
exactly,
Snake Eyes. But if you look at even the Star Wars sequels, right? The last
yep,
3 Star Wars movies, those movies were not received well.
yep,
They are decent movies on their own, right? And I have my own feelings on some of it's good, some of it's bad,
yeah,
but they weren't well received in the community of Star Wars collectors. And there
right,
was a lot of merchandise that was made because it's Star Wars,
yeah,
and they failed. But if you go back to the prequels, like when Phantom Menace launched, I remember walking into Walmart when that merchandise in the toy department dropped, and there was other stuff in there, and they had a whole, whatever their aisles are, 24 feet long or whatever those aisles are
oh
made,
yeah,
right? One side was nothing but all action figures from, Phantom Menace, and the other side was, t-shirts and hats and books
okay,
and, so I mean, it was both sides, right? However long those shelves are. And a lot of that stuff didn't sell very well either after people watched the movie and were kind of disappointed. So, I mean, and I think a lot of that though has to do with the fact that those people really thought it was going to be bigger than it was.
it was
And
they
they
overproduced.
overproduced. Yeah, they
Yeah.
overmade, the merchandise for that one, right?
Yep. I think that's a lot of the case there. And, but I think, those toys were obviously influenced by the marketing of the movies and stuff. And
Yep.
because of it, it's, it allows us to get a lot of toys in things that we may not have gotten otherwise without the other medium. But,
And if you're looking like now, right? Well, one of the biggest companies making stuff that's inspired by lots of different films and TV is NECA. I mean, they got Back
yeah,
to the Future, Planet of the Apes, RoboCop, Aliens, Predator, all these properties, Elf,
yep.
they have just so many properties right now that they're making that are tied to old movies and old TV shows. Just
Well, that gets to a whole different topic. At least NECA is producing them, but like Hasbro, they own how many IPs they're just sitting on, and
yep,
nobody else is
exactly.
able to make them, right? But that's a
Yep.
whole different topic for
Yeah,
another
that's a
stream
whole
at
different.
another time. But really, those television shows, those movies, the reason, and let's be clear, right? The reason that it works so well is because you can take these things you saw on TV, and this goes to my core collecting love was pro wrestling and the wrestling action figures. It was a way that I could take those same characters I watched every week or multiple times a week on television, and I could smash them into each other and progress my own world
Yep.
Of what I saw on television. So it
Yeah.
allowed me to be engaged both on the television screen or the movie screen, but also right on the floor in my living room.
Yeah. And you said it
So
a couple of times recently, like small wonder your son, right? He will sit
Son of
down.
Wonder, Son of
Son of
Wonder.
Wonder. Sorry. I knew it
No,
was
you're
something
good.
like that. But anyway, Small Wonder was another TV show from the 80s. Not many people remember. But anyway, he'll sit, like you said, right? He'll sit down, and if he's got something on TV that's related to whatever toys or products in front of him, he will sit there for hours and just be completely in his own world, right?
Yep.
And that's what all the tie-ins did for us. We saw Star Wars, or we saw, Thundercats or GI Joe or whatever, and we went when that show was over, and we finished the story or added to the story, or continued the adventure all on our own.
Exactly. Yeah, and then they influence each other. So if you can come up with a great IP that you can put on some sort of screen,
Yep.
even I would take a step back and say if you could put it on paper, some
Yep.
some sort of visual comic or a novel, something, and then transpose it into a figure line of action figures or some other consumable product. You will find great success if it's parlayed at the same time
There
together
was
and aligns.
there was a TV show back in the 80s. It was called Captain Power, I want to say, and you
Okay.
actually got to interact with the TV. So your toys actually like shot, and you could shoot the ships out of the
Huh.
TV. Don't know how it worked. I just remember it being there.
That's
Let's take
somebody.
a chat break
Yeah,
real quick, brother, because I got
absolutely.
some stuff in here, and then we'll carry on. Payne says he's arrived fresh from therapy and mindless entertainment. Don't let me down,
Thank you,
boys.
Payne.
We're all mindless here, Payne, so there's no letting you down. K-Dog Broadcasting. What's happening, brother? Thanks for
Thanks for
popping
joining.
in. Who's this here? This is
Love his
old.
icon, by the way. It looked like I think he had a Giants icon there for his profile. I think that's an Odell Beckham Jr. maybe.
Is it Odell? I can't tell. Yeah, it looks like
It's a
Odell.
New York
Yep.
Giant and number
Yep.
13, so
Yep.
I think so.
Oh, this is the one that Mr. Black Knight has a hard time saying.
Oh, this is the one that I saw
True
the other
Star
day.
Screamer, yes.
Yes, and I thought it was Trust a Screamer.
Yeah.
So yes.
I never trust a Screamer.
Right.
Spaceballs, a franchise, and coloring books for Transformers. Wait, Spaceballs, the lunchbox, and coloring books for Transformers merchandise.
I'm guessing what he's saying is they used
That's right.
Those products on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I never knew that. It's good information to know. Mr. Darklaw, this is my first moment of quiet time today. Thanks for helping me unwind, fellas. You are welcome, good sir.
Ted, what you sipping on?
Yeah, Ted, what you sipping on? Let's see. Oh, he's just saying hi to people. Briscoe, we had the ninja sets in the 80s. Yes, we did.
I remember those.
Star Wars, there was Buck Rogers best. Yeah, like those were all inspired by, I mean, like I said, Star Wars didn't only just really, create this merchandising giant thing based off the media that we have nowadays. They really blew up the whole space, toys and movies and TV shows and
right place, right time.
Yeah.
Imagine if they hadn't come up with it in the 70s and they waited until the early 2000s or mid 2000s when technology had advanced so much to do it. Could you imagine what that would have looked like the first time? It would be interesting to think of.
Yeah, Ghostbusters is another one, right? Yeah. They had a lot. I mean, that movie was. I mean, it was older
stuff.
It was but it was older kid related, right? But it wasn't kids that were really directed to toys. And a lot of the toys that they did make were based on the cartoon. So, I mean, there is that. But
right.
That's another one of those properties that's like,
odd choice for IP. I think that's in reference to, going back to when we were talking about Aliens and those darker RoboCop theme movies and things like that.
Toxic Crusader, which is based on Toxic Avenger, which was definitely not a kid's movie either.
Yeah. One of my favorite toy lines that we don't have.
As Ted did, everybody please leave a like.
Yeah.
And Joe G is in the house. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Joe. Hopefully you saw the little preview that we did for the Four Horsemen stuff in the weekly news. But thank you for jumping in.
Yeah, it would have been awesome for Pacific Rim, that movie, to put out some Jaegers. That would have been really cool. I think that's it. Otherwise, just kind of in talking and
I think
talking.
Robert mentioned one here. I don't know if you've seen that one.
This
where
one?
That one tells me, like, without, Emily is who she is. She's got a job at Hasbro. She's got to do what she says. I disagree with that statement that they are better without media, because if you had that media in front of kids nowadays and it was something that they could bite their teeth into, I think those classifieds would sell even faster to non-adult collectors.
Here's the problem I think that she runs into, right? And I don't know if this is something in her own thought process or something she's being told by Hasbro. Here's the problem. You have essentially a war-related toy, right? Because G.I. Joe is a war toy. There's no question about it. Tying a cartoon into that with all of the anti-gun stuff going on in this world would be a very hard sell to begin with. And who's going to watch the cartoon? It's going to be adult collectors, the same ones that are watching the He-Man revival on Netflix. So is it better? I think as far as who they're marketing that line to, absolutely, because it doesn't tie them to what the characters look like on the screen. They can design their own characters. So from that point of view, I would have to agree with her. Is it sad that we can't? Is it sad that we can't have some kind of G.I. Joe related cartoon that kids could watch and get into, or any other major line? Right, that would be nice to see. But for the most part, I would say she's probably right with the way G.I. Joe is right now and the way the world is right now.
I think it's more the world and what's acceptable or what's deemed as acceptable. I remember earlier on when I was first becoming a parent, and probably when I was just wrapping up being a teenager and youth myself, but there was definitely that coming of the age where folks were being much more critical of weapons and guns, and they started calling my sister-in-law gave a hard time because for a little while she used to call the Nerf guns blasters. And I'm like, no, that's a Nerf gun, dude. And I would literally give her a hard time and razz her on it just to give her a hard time. Like, no, it's a gun. It's a Nerf gun. It's actually better to teach them that.
I was talking about the other night that when I was working at Walmart as a manager, Walmart stopped selling guns completely, right? No Nerf guns, no cap guns, no, pistols that are, cowboy pistols or whatever, right? That's just what they did. And it's one of those things, right? It's gone on repetitively throughout time. In the late 60s and 1968, during the height of the Vietnam War, there was a huge anti-war toy movement, and G.I. Joe shifted from being essentially a soldier to being an adventurer, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it's gone on and off, and it'll roll back around.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it is. And I think the statement is a flawed statement from her part if that's what she says, because I don't think that the toy lines do better without the show. I think in current marketing approach, it's safer to not have the show. I think the toys would sell better in anything, right? It's historically speaking, everything
here's the thing, right?
When there's a tie-in.
If Hasbro would let somebody make a real true to life kick-ass G.I. Joe movie, you'd sell more toys. Because right now you have a dichotomy going on. They make movies that are G.I. Joe tagged, and they won't go full violence or anything in them because they don't want to exclude kids. They age the G.I. Joe figures from 8+ or whatever it is, so they don't exclude kids. But who's buying the G.I. Joe figures? Unless you or me or somebody like that is buying them for one of our kids or a nephew or something like that. It's adult collectors buying. So it's a real dichotomy that they're having to deal with.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's the perspective. Is it's not so much. At least that's what would be my argument or dispute. Is that her statement has failed, but it's more of it's safer for right now to not try to address having that cross medium between the two. Because again,
that's a very valid statement, Joe. That even when I was working there, they took out all the toy related weapons, but they were still selling real life firearms. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a world we live in, and we got to kind of play in that space. So, Blue Mule,
#Blue Mule. Yeah. So, and anybody looking for their G.I. Joe toys, or Cosmic Legions, or AWOC, head on over to Helidope Toys. Ted will lovingly wrap your toys in bubble wrap, put them in a box, and he will give it a lick because a kiss won't stick. And that's
And I
the way
don't know
he'll
if
ship it.
I don't know if they have them in stock still. Ted could probably confirm or not. But the most recent inductee into the Toyleet for this year, and where at the end of the year only one Toyleet figure will make the Toyleet Hall of Fame. But this one has, this one was available. This is picked up directly from Helidope. So if you want a really kick-ass Jada Toys Ken figure, go ahead and grab it. Made the Toyleet list tonight.
That's right.
So, just kind of piggybacking to the main topic here, and I think we've kind of been hovering around that. I think that, this, where we are today with the articulation, the effects that the figures come with, the multiple heads, the extra pieces, all that stuff, right? Part of it obviously comes from that providing more bang for your buck and providing you value, right? Beyond just, simplicity. But I think a lot of it has come from the fact that you have these juggernauts that would be TV and movie that are able to funnel in the recognition of it to a toy line that has allowed the innovation so that we've gotten to these much more articulated electronic features, interactive elements in the figures. You hinted towards them trying that something, I think in the 80s or whatever, with an interactive figure, with the TV and shooting. Yep. So they're always trying to cross that. And the more, the more they can do that, the better. I know that there was an attempt early on in the 2000s. I remember all my time my oldest was about 7 or 8 years old. He would get something for Christmas. It was like this dino injecting thing. It hooked to your computer. It allowed you to play with like you had a virtual version of the dinosaur that you could use, almost like pre-NFTs is kind of what it was like. You had this digital version of it you could play a game with on the computer, but then you had the physical toy that you could use offline.
Yeah.
So they're always trying to innovate with that kind of.
Yeah, there was a whole thing, right? They had that Disney setup where they had the little figurines that you set on the thing.
Oh, those are the board. Those are the computer games and stuff. Yep.
Yeah, the video games, and then there was Skylanders, which had the little figurines.
Yep, Spyro.
Yep. They were
Spyro, I guess.
Spyro. Yep.
Yeah.
But I think going back to the thing, right? It's like we lack good modern movie tie-ins to figures, right? Like there is actually a bunch of King Kong and Godzilla merch at Walmart right now.
Yeah.
And it's not moving because the toys, well, they're made by Leonard. So, I mean, that's part of the problem. No one cares about Leonard toys. But the other thing is that the movie wasn't really received the way that the toys used to be, right? And it's kind of, like I said, it's a really difficult situation for toy companies now. I think they need to come up with a way to make movies or cartoons that can be done the way it was. I mean, now granted, there are new legislations and stuff that don't let you market to kids the way they used to, but So real quick, Fatrid, Mr. Fu wants to know how he becomes a member of the Toyleet. Well, there's this long form, there's a waiting period, and then there's, initiation. And I don't know if you're ready for that, man. I don't know. It's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal initiation.
Yeah. You've heard like the gang initiations in prison and stuff. It's worse than that.
Yeah.
So we'll work on it. We'll send out some sort of a sign up. Most people won't make it. It's like maybe less than 1%.
Yeah. It's like the Green Berets, right? 100 mental tests and only 3 are going to make it, right? So
and then only 1 really makes it, but we'll just
Brad Dom, what's happening?
Thanks for jumping in. You're right there, and I want to touch on the piece. Oh, what do we got here? Toyleet, you must sacrifice 4 cans of C4 to Travis. It's a big ceremony, lots of robes and fire. There's a whole bunch of woos and things like that too.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. So there's a message in here from an adult cartoon. So that can we pull that back up because I want to touch on
the Fat Red one.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah,
these are things that they could do, and they could target it as an adult only, and I think that would have it. I just don't know that it would return the investment that it would cost to produce something there, because
Well,
we're
that's the
buying the
problem.
toys already. We're buying
Yeah.
the toys already, so
Exactly.
it's not helping sell the product. And that's, like, being honest, that's why they had laws. And I don't know all
Yep.
the intricacies and details, but that's why they had laws that on Saturday morning you can only show the toys so much and things like that, because it couldn't just be a 30-minute promotional
Yeah, it could be a 30-minute
commercial.
commercial. Yep.
Yeah, for toys.
That's where I think the
So
problem lies, right? Is it going to be worth? Is it going to give you enough return on investment to make a cartoon to sell toys that people are already buying based on nostalgia bait, right?
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, Radnam has another gang beating by the crick. Yes, exactly, Radnam.
Yeah. Has to say your screen name proper. No problem. Trust a screamer. No, so much love there, brother. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. So, going back to the movie merch and everything here, big part of it's that marketing strategy. Market it from, and kind of what we were just talking about. How do you market it? Does it make sense? Um, you know, if a movie bombs, does the toy line bomb? Not always. If a toy line bombs, does the movie bomb? Again, not always. They're not independently. They're not. They're not
Yeah, they're definitely
connected
not
and
dependent on
dependent.
each other.
Right? They can go either way. Though a successful movie and a successful toy line is highly likely if they're both consumed by folks. And and I'll use the example of Star Wars. Right?
Yes.
That's the big one, right? In the original, right?
Yes.
And we saw that, and perfect time, perfect place. It was ready for the taking.
The thing is when something bites somebody the right way, it can make it successful. You look at cartoons from the 80s like Visionaries or even Insectoids, right? Those cartoons lasted maybe a season, but
Yeah.
there's still love for them because they're getting, there's talks of being remade and stuff, right?
Pirates of the Dark Water for me.
Right, Pirates of the Dark Water.
I
Exactly,
mentioned that, and a
right?
lot of folks are like, "Oh, that's a cool thing,"
Yeah.
and folks remember it, but we
Yep.
didn't see much of it.
Yep.
So,
Let's see. Farrah says, was that the one on Netflix? Disco? What's he talking about? Oh, G.I. Joe Resolute. Yeah, I think that's been around for a while, but that was a good, more adult oriented G.I. Joe
yeah.
cartoon. Brickster, what's happening, my man? Thanks for showing up. It's about time. You're late. That means that means you got to buy the next round. So I'll be expecting that.
I think some of the things that we kind of alluded to is some of the there could be case studies done. Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Transformer movies, Harry Potter. All of those had toy lines, some successful, some not.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. Harry Potter,
Yeah.
right? Going back to the whole merch thing, Harry Potter, the movies and the books, right? So there was a book tie-in, a movie tie-in, which both help each other, help sell the other, right?
Yep.
But then on top of action figures, you had dolls, you had toy wands, you had you had wizard hats, I know when Luke was young, he had the sorting hat, that was a battery operated thing you press and it would tell you what house you belong to. I mean, there was lots of Harry Potter merch tie. And what was the other one you named? There was something else I wanted to add.
I mentioned the MCU and Transformers.
Oh, MCU is another big one, right?
Harry Potter's a great example, though. That had like a very prolonged engagement because of the continual iterations of the books, which led to the movies, which kept pumping things out, which allowed them to constantly pump out toys and stuff. And I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine I had actually tossed some Harry Potter wand or something like that, and then tossed it, and it just went in the garage sale or garbage or something because it was something nobody used. And I remember somebody going, "Oh man, does anybody have this on Facebook?" And it was a good friend of mine's wife, and they were using it for one of their kids. I was like, "Oh, we used to have that, but I must have gotten rid of it." And then she's like, in the comments, she's like, it's going for like $300 on eBay, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" Like I wasted my time tossing that one. But it's those things, they really carry weight. And we're seeing it in the relaunches, and
that's a whole nother topic we could discuss because like there's many stories from like my uncle for instance, who had a lot of GI Joes, the 60s ones, and he went into the Marine Corps when he was 18, and grandma sold all of his Joes at a garage sale for $5 that are now worth $500 a piece. Right?
Yeah. It's like Punk. How many times has he sold that thing that's taller than him, the large
flag
ship there? The Flag. Thank you. Couldn't think of the name for some reason. Yeah. You know, how many times he could have sold that, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's going for a big amount too.
So, you know, there's, you know, those kind of, you could do a case study on a lot of those larger ones, the long-term prolonged series, Star Wars, you know, and that's why we see them, you know, and that's why those companies will continually pump out, you know, a show, a movie, and then throw the toys on the shelves. And if it's properly aligned and it gets the buy-in from the major, you know, the major fan base, that's great. But again, they're expanding the fan base because it's a new, fresh take and addition. So they're getting other people to purchase it. I'm interested in the future trends of how this will go, though, because we hear this often on a lot of the look community is that, you know, we're the dying generation. I think Payne over on Payne's Toy Samples talks about like we're the last ones, right? Like we might be the last group of collectors of toys and action figures because, you know, so many are inundated with their electronics at such a young age. They don't collect, and, you know, they don't keep that nostalgia feel to things. You know, they're, you know, here's a thing and then I'm on to the next one. So it'll be interesting to see how toys and, you know, action figures and things continue to move forward with the combination of movie and toys.
Yeah, I think you got kids that are like, you know, Son of Wonder's age, right? Who have been heavily influenced by people that are your age and generation.
Yeah.
But after that, you know, the kids that are being like born nowadays, it's going to be hard because even like the video games that a lot of people talk about now or focus on that are younger now, right? Like your older son and Luke's age, you know, 18 to 20, they are really into like the video games. And, you know, like Punk has said it in the past, 20 years from now, they're probably going to buy merch that's nostalgia to that, right?
Oh yeah.
But things change so fast now. Like, you know, people are all Fallout because it's the hottest new movie and it's a video game. Well, tomorrow Fallout's not talked about anymore, right? It's not the same anymore where it lasts and has an imprint on you, right?
Yeah.
Real quick. Oh, Cobb's even later. So Brick's off the hook. Now Cobb's buying the round.
Moving the tab.
Yep. That's what happens. You show up late, you buy the tab. And real quick, I said hi to Nolan before, but you know, that now makes us an official toy tube when Nolan shows up. That makes you absolutely Toyleet takeover. So
yeah, we're officially real. So you know, kind of coming to a closing here on the main topic. Does the chat have any insight into kind of movie merge things? You know, do you find yourself, I guess here's the question I want to throw out to the chat. Do you find yourself more influenced to buy a particular toy or toy line if they have another medium? And I know we've been discussing movie and TV, but even let's throw it out there to comic or even books, right? You know, are you more inclined to jump into those things when they have an alternative medium to kind of drive that lore or that world that you're purchasing and consuming?
And let's add a second part to that. Are you more inclined to buy it if there's a media tie-in? And does the quality of the media tie-in change whether you actually go in on it or not?
Yeah, that's interesting. And while folks are doing that, we'll come back to that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the next slide here. Preview for what next week is. Toy restoration, bringing old toys back to life. This is an interesting one to me, and we'll just highlight where we're going with this, folks, is that, you know, what I have here is a figure. If I can throw myself on, I have a Star Wars, you know, Black Series figure, which obviously faced some sort of figure dysmorphia issue, broken piece here and broke, right? So, you know, my sons have always very often brought to me, and there's a certain spot on my desk that stuff lands with the hope that Dad will use some super glue to piece some things back together. So that's my kind of bringing old toys back to life, but it also goes beyond that. And I think, Ed, you can talk a little bit about that next week, you know, fairly deep, right? Because
going in onto that, you know, and Luke used to bring home his friends' toys from school for Dad to fix. So, I mean, it was anything from Hot Wheels to action figures to whatever, right? And Dad would go out to the garage to his Santa's workshop and do his magic and send the kid back home a brand new toy.
Yeah. Good deal.
All right. So so that's next week. Same time, same bat time, same bat channel. We got some answers going on here. So let's run through those.
Good deal.
Robert says comic got me into AWOC and Action Force. So yeah, yep, definitely.
Robert, have you read the Savage Crucible graphic novel? If you haven't, go find it, dude. It's freaking awesome. And I know you have Savage Crucible stuff because I saw you mention getting an extra one sent, and you've got more than I do already. I'm definitely more inclined to buy figs of media I really like, but it's not a prerequisite. He says after pre-ordering NECA Planet of the Apes reissues.
Yeah,
I didn't even know those were a thing.
Yeah, the NECA Planet of the Apes are gorgeous.
Hey, Brick, send me a link to that stuff when you get a second. I want to take a look at it.
Yeah, Punk showed them off Monday.
Oh,
it's old. It's Planet of the Apes from the 60s.
So it wouldn't really tie into my AWOC stuff for Savage Crucible stuff, probably, right?
The Guerrilla Soldiers you could probably tie in, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
They got a Cornelius from the 60s, which is an orangutan.
Cool.
So the only difference really is that they're fully clothed, or clothed, as opposed to But yeah, they're on the NECA site. Really cool. They're based on the 60s movie. So Roll Keeper says, I think it depends. I love the Game of Thrones books and enjoyed the show, but the figures they made were an easy pass. That's the other thing, right? The quality of the figures compared to the quality of the books and vice versa, or movies, whatever it is. Right?
My question there to Roll Keeper would be, would it matter? Would it make a difference to you if the quality of the figures were better? Because I've heard people talk about like some of the old school Lord of the Rings figures. Like I know Bobby Vala on 3POA talks about how one of the IPs he loves is Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd and fan myself. I never got any of the figures, but I can surely tell you if I got something in like a Savage Crucible or a Four Horsemen style Mythic Legion of Lord of the Rings, I would easily jump into those.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I'd be curious, is it because of the quality of the product that was presented? Or is it just that it just isn't kind of your thing?
I would say that I never bought any of the Lord of the Rings figures when those movies were out, but I bought every single one of those Lord of the Rings figures when those movies were out. So
gotcha.
Briscoe, he can get into toy line without a movie, book, or comic. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm all based on what the toy looked like. And Joe says he barely consumes modern media, so I'm usually more drawn in by community than the entertainment. Yep. Good answer. Let's see what Trust a Screamer says. It's going to be another guy that has a bunch of names.
True Star Screamer.
The media does help. Look at Captain Phasma. When the figure first appeared, everybody wanted her. Then she went into the garbage in every aspect. Yes, absolutely. And same with what's his name? The guy we were talking about last week there, the Sith dude that was in the prequels. I can't think of his name.
I know which one you're talking about. The
old
chat
dude.
is gonna have to say it.
Yeah. Somebody help us out.
Yeah.
Fat Red says, I like toys based on games and movies. Determining factors are number one, scale. Of course, he's an 18th guy for life. Number two, content. Is it going to fit into my world? Yes, that's the big thing for me, right? Does it fit into my world? And I can fit most things into my world. Number three, stuff that just has a cool vibe. Absolutely. And we're back to Trust the Screamer. Marvel sells that Bucky Cat buck with just changing the head and color due to the character it's tied to. Yeah, that's been mold. That mold's been around for 20 years.
I'm surprised that mold still works.
Yeah, they're going to look great on Allegiance horse.
He must be telling the AWOC stuff. And yes, I know they are in the end there, whatever at the end when the spaceship blows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out, Robert. It's a really good read. I kind of talked about a little bit of the Savage Crucible.
You needed to have a lizard man. I fully respect that. You needed to have a lizard man. He probably lives in South Carolina where the lizard man lives.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. So quality definitely is. I mean, yeah, that to me is often a given, right? If the quality of a product isn't what we're looking for, we kind of pass on it, right? So.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Because like Snoke, that was his name. Snoke,
yes.
Everybody was hoping he was going to turn into Vader or an Emperor or whatever, and then they killed him in the second movie within the first 30 minutes, and then that figure peg warmed forever, right? So I mean, that's it's a thing. If TV doesn't tell me how to play with my toy, then I just make them all talk like Moss Man, and things get weird.
That's funny.
See, oh, Skeletor's got a case of the grumble duffs. Let's see. Noah, let's see what more. We got one more from Foo. Trust the Screamer is better than Thrust Arse Creamer, as Aaron said. True. Very true. That's true.
Well, I guess we just came up with a new one.
Yeah.
Thrust.
Aaron,
how you doing
Aaron
tonight?
said something about a creamer too. So I mean, I guess that let's see. Nolan would love to have
I think
a
that
miniseries or
would be
movie
cool.
based on Mythic Legions. That would be awesome for sure.
I feel like a movie would be very, high cost and everything, but
I bet you if they could do a decent cartoon, right?
That would be the way
with
I'd want to see it.
With awesome animation. I'd like to see an AWOC done that way too.
Well,
I'd rather see an AWOC animated series that's done really well as opposed to a movie.
Yeah, I've got Planet of the Apes for my anthropomorphic, type, approach there for those guys. So yeah, good deal. Thank you everyone for the participation in the chat. That's awesome.
Participation, definitely.
Yeah. So just going back to
let's run through the show, the reel one more time. That was fun. I want to hear that beat.
Okay, sounds good, man.
Yo, hit the lights, Toyleet's on the mic, catching figs and Mr. Wonderful, they just right. From screen gems to your hands tonight, we're bridging two worlds with all of might. See the action, feel the frames, convert to plastic, that's the game. TV scenes and blockbuster dreams, we mold them into action teams. Action figs leading the charge, Mr. Wonderful, he's living large. From Gotham's nights, the stars so bright, they turn celluloid into play fight.
In the end, it's more than just play. It's the stories we tell in a molded way. Toyleet's here with a cinematic spin, turning film scenes into wins.
And every toy tells a tale underneath the sail, beyond the veil. Film and toys forever intertwined. In every box, the stories bind. Grab your figures, set the stage. From the quiet screen to a fan's rage. With every set, with every build, the magic of the movies is fulfilled.
I saw you laughing to that.
So I was laughing in the back because I put that video together with the moments of the show going live. And I didn't really pay attention to the scenes that I was putting against the music. But there was a couple that I thought like hit right on time. Like there's play fighting for the lyrics, and it was at the pro wrestling, which I chuckled about. Yeah. And then there was the lyrics in regards to when there's a story, starts with a thing, and it kind of came up for the Star Wars piece at the exact moment there was a reference to it, and it was like completely unintentional alignment, which I'm like just gave me extreme satisfaction for unintended outcome, which was cool. But yeah, no, I love that beat, man. We'll see what we come up with for next week.
So real quick,
but toy restoration here. Oh, go ahead.
Trust the Screamer says, Fat Ridge, you're just seeing what you desire to see. and Fat Ridge comes back, laugh out loud. You're not entirely wrong.
So I've been on streams where they're like, them are wonderful.
Yeah.
So like I've had people refer to me as them are wonderful.
And my name's Action Figs, and it's been said Axion since
Axion
screwed it up.
Absolutely. I love it. It's great. So yeah, again, going into next week, we got the Toyleet Takeover, toy restoration, bringing old toys back to life. So we'll be focused on addressing, how we think, some recommendations. Hopefully Ed can give us some insight into some of the things he does, and kind of our go-to tools and tips on bringing some of those old toys back to life and trying to, take advantage of those. We also have, we'll have the Toyleet or Toilet next week. We'll have some updated video stuff. We've obviously been rebranding a little bit. Folks have heard the new theme, and they also, have seen the new logo that we've presented. So we'll be continuing forward with that. Like I said, next week we have the Bringing the Old Toys Back to Life topic, and we'll hit our weekly news, shout out from the crick and stuff. Ed, what do you have going on this week?
Oh, what do we have going on this week? I actually, we got Thursday with a friend with Mr. Punk on Toys, with Toys. And then, so I'm out to be modding that stream, modding Radnom's Late Night Chill and Craft on Friday. Saturday, of course, I will be out on the Clubhouse on Ostradamus Toys channel or my channel or whoever channel that ends up being on.
Yep.
I don't know if Oz will be back this week or not. If it not, I will probably be hosting it right here on this channel. Starts Saturday night at 10 o'clock and goes till whenever we get tired at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, sometimes 6 a.m.
I think that's what you should call it when you run it.
The Kirk HOA meeting? Yeah.
Yeah. When you run it, it shouldn't be the Clubhouse. It should be the Creek HOA meeting.
I will have to use that this week for my thumbnail if I host it. And then Sunday night, of course, I'll be modding for Hella Dope, and then back to Monday modding for Punk with Toys, and then Tuesday I'll be back here with you doing the Toyleet Takeover.
But not only will we next week have the Toyleet Takeover, but before the Toyleet Takeover, there will be a launch of a very special video where I think, Ed, you're going to be interviewing someone as they give a review of the original space opera figures.
Yes, that will be going out live on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and then our show at 9 p.m. on the same night. It's going to be a busy, wonderful. You're going to get an extra hour of time with me.
With Toyleet,
because you don't get to see all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for my side, I'll be popping in the streams. Folks see me around often. I haven't been as frequent as I've been working on quite a bit. Getting ready for the Hexastack launch on the 18th. We have, I guess, 11 days at this point. So just under 2 weeks.
Not even 11 days because you're already burnt this one.
Right. But, 3 hours more of working a night. So we've got that. And then the day after, on the 19th, I will be at the toy convention in what is it called? In Clifton Park, New York, which is about 30 minutes or so from me, where I will have a booth where I'll be promoting Hexastack, selling some Hexastack, and also moving an awesome His tank that's been never unboxed. So there'll be quite a bit of toy. I think like maybe 100 booths or 40. It's like 100 booths were available. I'm not sure how many people are going to be there, but it's inside of a mall, so it'll be a large toy convention. So looking forward to
that. Thank you everybody for hanging out and participating in the chat. We appreciate you. If you got time, pop over, give us a like. Anybody that hasn't subbed or people that sub, direct them over to us. Shout out to Hella Dope Toys for having us on Sunday night. We gained some subs and stuff from that, so we appreciate you guys. And if you're looking for action figures, whether it's G.I. Joe or AWOC or Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, Jada Toys, Mezco, Valiverse, a bunch of it, NECA, head on over to those boys at Hella Dope Toys and grab a figure. Like I said, your package will be lovingly wrapped and sent out the next day, and Ted licks every box with special saliva.
I thought he only did that for mine.
No, he does that for everybody. He gives you extra saliva.
Well,
mayonnaise.
Thank you, everyone, and see you next week.